Good day, televiewers. You're welcome to this shift of another broadcast, The Lamb, over your TV of choice, WAKA Africa TV. It's a pleasure having you on board this edition of the program this day. Take note, The Lamb is that program wherein we discuss current issues, views, facts with different voices, and we try to see how we give it a better tomorrow. On The Lamb, we try to see how we use these different ideologies to give it a better thought for a future which we do so desire. On today's edition of the program, we will be discussing on the topic looking into the reorganization of structures and functions of the GCE board. This is as per the decree number 2008/514 of 22nd of October 2018. It's just time I will be introducing to you the panelists I have in today's edition of the program. Permit me start with Jato Richard Tonga. He is a household name in the region, Cameroon, and of course Africa and the world. He is a journalist and he specializes in human rights reporting. It's a pleasure having you on set, sir.
It's a pleasure meeting you on WAKA Africa. Good morning.
Thank you very much, Jato Richard Tonga. I will next be introducing to you Nimpa Francis. He is the coordinator of Cameroon Association of Technical Education Teachers, and he is a reporter with Radio Hot Cocoa. It's a pleasure having you on set, sir.
It's a pleasure. I'm Macmillian, and I want to greet our audience and viewers that I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you. We will be diving straight into today's edition of the program, and we are looking at the recent happenings, and of course the most recent being the structuring of the GCE board. I will be starting with Jato Richard Tonga. What do you make with this new decree?
Well, it came, first of all, not much as a surprise, especially to the stakeholders in the education sector, because there have been a forewarning by the syndicates of teachers with regards to that change that was imminent. So when it came, it was not a big surprise. Probably what could be making the difference has to do with the fact that there weren't sufficient consultation, especially with regards to the nature of the board as expected by the stakeholders. I'm talking of the teachers, syndicates, and the parents who are the immediate, beneficiaries of the organization of the GCE board. It has to do with their children, and so they are very concerned and want to have input as to how the organization should take place. But on the whole, there were a lot of lapses in the reorganization. That notwithstanding the advantage that has to go with the financial aspect of it, there were a lot of lapses as most of the stakeholders of that education sector saw the reorganization. So I would conclude initially by saying a lot of things were left out, especially on the representation from the parents and the syndicates of teachers who are directly concerned and would want a type of education to their children which is problem solving, because that is the essence of education. So much was left out.
I will be getting back to you, Richard. Nimpa, what is your take on this reorganization of the board?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. I must first of all begin by saying that the decree came on the 22nd. And before that decree, there was a previous decree on the 18th of the same month that reorganized the back board. Okay. That's the equivalent examination body to the GCE and the Anglophone subsystem. Okay. So after I read through that of the back board, I was already wondering what may happen to the GCE board. And just a few days later, the GCE board too was touched by another presidential decree. Okay. So I must say that when I read through the decree, I just realized that it was long awaited. It was long awaited because when I perused through it, I realized that it gives some certain advantages to the technical education subsystem in Cameroon. Remember, I'm the coordinator of the Technical Education Teachers Association. There are some of the things that we have clamored for. We have petitioned government trying to let them know that as Anglophones, we were subjected to write Francophone examination or French examinations in our Anglophone subsystem, which didn't really augur well to the subsystem, which by the 1998 orientation of education in Cameroon is very clear that there are two subsystems, the Francophone subsystem and the Anglophone subsystem. So if one system is subjected to take in an examination that is for the other system for all these years, so you can imagine. So that was my happiness when I read through the decree for the first time. I saw that technical education was given a place in this decree reorganizing the GCE board. So my take there was quite positive, though along the line there are some other lapses which might play negatively to Anglophone subsystem of education. But in the whole, I'm just happy that the cry of technical education stakeholders has been heard here.
This certainly was one of the problems the teachers had when they had their strike in 2016. Can we say that the government is gradually adhering to the call of the Anglophones?
Well, certainly. I think before the teachers went on strike, that was in November 2016, they had a catalogue of problems which they tabled to government, which they thought that it was hindering the smooth running of the Anglophone subsystem of education. And amongst that was this issue affecting technical education, because we could not imagine that in an Anglophone subsystem of education, we could still write examinations like CAP. CAP in French is Certificat d'aptitude professionnelle. We have probatoire. We have BAC. These were all examinations that are written in the Francophone subsystem of education, but was imposed on the Anglophone children. And if I tell you that as a leader of an association of technical education teachers, the number of Anglophone technical students who have had to be frustrated, who have had to drop out of school because of a barrier in between the first cycle certificate and the second cycle, which is the probatoire. You will not believe it. You know, the probatoire to the Francophone is a promotion exam, but they make it a kind of certificate-like. But the certificate is not equated to anything anywhere, but it's a total blockade to Anglophone children who pursue technical education. Some have left school, some have not been able to acquire the BAC just because the probatoire held them. They wrote 2, 3, 4 times and they got discouraged, and that was it. So I think we want to appreciate the decree that, like you asked, could it be the fallout of the teachers' protest? I would say yes, though the documents were already on course long ago, but I think the teachers' concerns of the protest and so on mainly helped to facilitate what has now come out as a decree reorganizing the board.
Maybe I would love to add to what you said by bringing out this aspect that, you know, when a people bring up a problem and you want to get the problem solved, it's always important to globally solve the problem. Because sometimes when you pick from pieces and you take off a problem, by the time you get to resolving all the entire bulk of problems that were brought on board, you start having cracks, you know, from where you started. So I think the problems of the teachers were holistic and was a very bogus, you know, issues they brought on board. I think the first solution to education problems in Cameroon have to do with the Ministry of Education, be it the basic, secondary, or the higher education ministry. They are supposed to understand that our system of education in Cameroon takes into account the bicultural nature of the country. It does not divide the country. It's a bicultural nature of the country, and that's why in all the ministries, rather than coming out with, you know, policies that are brought forth from government by stakeholders, that is the ministers and the call it the interministerial commissions that are put in place to come out with these policies. It's better to get two, you know, technical services in all the ministries that deal with the French system of education and the Anglo-Saxon system of education, because what comes from the people as proposals to resolve a problem of the people is primordial. You can't have a problem with a cultural, setting, and the solutions are coming from a different cultural setting. The feeling and the originality will never be the same.
Jato,
that is why
Jato, the former GCE registrar Azon Wara, in an interview with the Post newspaper, fears the academic authority and the authenticity of the certificates. Do you share his fears?
Well, I would share his fears. I share his fears even very greatly. That is somebody who has been the registrar of the board himself. If he fears this, it's very easy to substantiate that the evaluation of examination has a kind of step that you take to get to the final phase. And with regards to the Anglo-saxon system of education in Cameroon, the General Certificate of Education and its associated examinations are very keen, first of all, on what is the content of the syllabus. How are the examinations set? What is the quality of education and the duration the children are given to acquire the knowledge, and how are they evaluated? Void of getting children who will be given certification without the knowledge by virtue of fraud and all that. So they want to take into consideration all of this. And when we give the GCE board this nomenclature and give it a parastatal status, it implies the appointment of a director to that institution is government discretion, and it could come either from the French-speaking or the English-speaking systems, meaning any Cameroonian can be appointed to the helm of that office. And the fear of Azon Wara, maybe to better put it, is, in Cameroon, when you appoint somebody to head a department, because the institutions are not tailored at respecting rules, people tend to employ family members, employ friends, and sometimes they go beyond leakages. That is the fear, that you employ people who are not qualified, who do not merit, and they won't understand the importance of professionalism and respect of ethics in examination. So that fear, to me, is but accurate, and is a cause to really be concerned.
Ambe, Macmillian, we want to come in there to talk a little about the fear. That the fear of authenticity.
Yeah.
I don't want to think that we should bring that fear in now.
Okay.
Yeah, because any examination body has some standards that they must meet.
Okay.
If the GCE board has existed since it was created around 1993 till today, I think the quality of what the GCE board produces by this decree has not been affected. Yeah. To me, because if Azon Wara is expressing the fears, it would now mean that either the syllabuses, a lot of the curriculum, all of those things have been changed. But no, those things have not been changed. The curriculum remains, the syllabuses for these examinations, they remain.
What about the rule of leakages? What about the rule of leakages in examination? That could just be his basis on which he's affected. And leakages is a kind of thing that in Cameroon have been very common with some settings as far as examination evaluation is concerned. The Anglo-Saxon system of education, without being pious to say there have been no leakages, but it has a minimal leakage, what do I put it, a minimal leakage percentage comparatively to the French system of education with the popular cartouche and what everybody knows. So his fear may just be at the level of, leakages. Because when it leaks, it will normally not be the kind of examinations that we want at the end.
But also to say that leakages in examinations are just part and parcel of organizing examinations all over the world. You must discover that every candidate in an examination is always having the temptation to have a pre-hand question before the examination day. Everywhere.
Away from
so
leakages.
Even from official examinations like that, in normal classroom examinations, children still try to enter the examination room with pre-prepared material.
Away from leakages, Francis, could we say that the lapses witnessed in the just past exams with mixed up in results. Could it be the reason for this new reorganization?
Well, the reorganization is just less than a week ago, and we got those difficulties and lapses of the exam during the June, July, August phase of the GC examination. This same year.
Yeah.
So I don't want to link it to that. Like I said at the beginning, that the documents that have today been signed and endorsed and decreed by the head of state, those are documents that were already on course long ago, even before the appointment of the new registrar, Mr. Dominic Ndang. These documents were already above his level. They were already at the level of the ministries, the technical ministries, the prime minister, and so on. So I don't want to attribute that to this. The lapses at the just ended GC examination could just be a matter of people hurrying to meet up, to beat deadline. Remember that for the previous years, examination results at the GCE always come out at the end of August and all of that. But the new registrar wanted to beat the record. So for me, I'm thinking that in the process of trying to beat the record, to beat time, they had to hasty up
and
some of the issues.
You cannot also take it away you can also take it away from the ongoing Anglophone crisis in the Northwest and Southwest.
Of course,
because it affected the organizations of the examination, especially with children who had to move from hostile centers, to soft centers to write, and, checking them in, making sure that these candidates have registered and all of that. These were some of the challenges that the organization had. But to talk about, the fact that the government brought this in, maybe because of the organizations of the examination in the 2017 academic year, I think, as Nimpa says, it was already preconceived. But the inclusive nature of the final decision is a very big problem. That is the syndicates of teachers and the parents who were actually
That said, Nimpa Francis, you are the coordinator of Cameroon Association of Technical Teachers. I wish to find out from you, don't you think that the board status has been upgraded, but powers are reduced, since its decisions will not more reflect, or it will now more reflect government desires?
Well, it's true that the decision or the powers of the board probably is reduced, which I don't want to think so, because the new organigram or the decree merely puts the registrar. The name registrar remains.
Yeah.
I think we have to appreciate government for maintaining the Anglo-saxon culture. All examination bodies in Anglo-saxon countries in the world have registrars.
That's true.
At the head. So we want to appreciate government that despite the touches or the changes they wanted to make, they didn't tamper with the name of the registrar. The registrar is now assisted by one deputy. Remember, the old decree that was just thrown out had 2 deputy registrars. Now it's reduced to 1. Though we actually don't know, but the government intention is that it also cuts cost of keeping 2 deputy registrars. Now they have 1 deputy registrar. We don't know what will become of the other services that the other registrar used to work, but I think they might be broken down to some directorates or departments of the board, which we are still waiting for the organogram. But not actually defending the board. I'm not a staff of the board.
Sure.
As a union leader that I am, I can only say that the new decision gives more power to the board.
Okay, Francis, I would have loved you say you acknowledge the fact that government did not take the name registrar away, as than to say appreciate, because it's obvious that government was supposed to maintain the name registrar. You don't say you appreciate.
No, it could not. I would still take away the name, because when
it would be wrong. It would obviously be wrong.
Richard,
when the decree was read, when the decree was read, the first interpretation of everybody was, oh, the name is now Director General.
No, the whole
second look of the decree,
the whole
they realized that the name was maintained.
The whole thing,
government actually still put the name Director General, we'll only be crying.
The whole thing,
Richard, what is in the name?
What is in the name? The name remains registrar. The only difference is it now has the rank of a director.
Good.
That is the difference. And maybe the financial aspect of the board is what we must recognize, because in the past, the teachers, you always find out that most of them get discouraged to go back because of lack of payment of teachers' dues. We now look forward, because the board would probably have a budget that will be voted, and given to assist in its function. And we now look forward to seeing teachers paid earlier, because it's a motivation. When teachers go to mark and they are not sure of their dues, they live in very funny conditions, they mark in very difficult conditions, it could affect their psychology and consequently the attitude on the evaluation of the candidate's examination. So if the teachers are sure of their dues, they have their monies, and they go marking with a high moral, they could do a good job, and at the end would have. So all of this goes to also tell you about the consequence on the outcome of the examination. So to answer your question on what is in the name, I think what is in the name has to do with what the name does. It's not about what it's called, it's what it does. And if the registrar of the GC does his job well, give him any name you want. I think what the candidates want is good examination and good result.
If you are just joining us, you are tuned to the LAM over WAKA Africa TV. We are now talking of a new dispensation which comprises of a representative of the Presidency of the Republic, Prime Minister's Office, secondary education, higher education, the Ministry of Finance, and one representative staff of the board elected by their peers. Now, Nimpa, no more teachers and parents to do whistleblowing. Will it affect the outcome?
Well, it will. That is exactly where the teacher trade unions that we are not comfortable with. The fact that a lot of representations have been scraped off from the GCE Board Council is very worrisome to us. Because for a board council that had 17 members and the new decree reduces it to 7. And if you see the other representations that are thrown out, they are very key stakeholders in education. If you have the teacher trade unions as a whole will no longer be represented, it means we don't have a say.
The University of Boya.
The University of Boya, and may I just add that the University of Boya, the Vice Chancellor co-signs the GCE certificates.
Yeah.
So if the University of Boya is out and they will have to co-sign, what would they actually be signing?
What importance was there in co-signing? What importance was there before in co-signing when we still have fake certificates even brandished in our universities?
The issue of fake certificates is it cuts across. It's everywhere. There's no country where you don't have these issues of fake certificates.
Now, what role was the teacher trade unions playing in the former body?
Well, they were defending the interest of the teachers first, then the education as a whole. Remember, the trade unions are there to safeguard, to make sure that the education subsystem, the tenets of education are respected. So if the teachers are no longer there, it means that decisions that could take against the teachers, nobody will be there to argue. Okay, Jato Richard just raised the concern of financial autonomy, where teachers have to mark examinations without their dues paid. That is very true. As we speak, markers of the 2018 session of the examination, they have not been paid their out-of-station allowances. This has never happened. This has just come for the past 2 years when this crisis started. But before then, the dues had to be paid ending August. But now we have a problem where the board says, well, the ministry, the technical ministry has not yet disbursed the subvention to the board, so we don't have enough funds to pay, and the teachers keep waiting. Last year, they paid in 2 installments. Those are all difficulties the board is now going through, which we think that with the new decision now, if the teachers are not represented there, who will be blowing their whistle? Who will be fighting for some of these decisions?
Nimpa,
so
I just had a chat
have the problem.
I just had a chat some few days back when we got this decree with one of the deputy registrar of the board, Akoko.
Yeah.
And he was very honest to tell us that these representatives for the past 10 years have been dormant in the board. And to him, it was of no consequence their presence or their absence. So he made it very clear to that. But I think what you are saying now is a charge on the representatives that they were basically just bothered about their dues. They go and see many things are going wrong, and there was even the fear of some kind of fraternity with the authorities of the board with regards to their interest safeguard, and they don't care much about the parents. Then the representative from the presidency of the republic depends too on how he is representing, because we've had representatives from the presidency of the republic in some of these parastatals and organizations. They represent themselves. They go there and visa any rubbish that is done for their pockets. They don't represent the masses. So if this representative from the presidency is representing the presidency of the republic in the GCE board to fit the presidency, the decision makers of the presidency about the challenges, and calling on the probably Secretariat General of the presidency of the republic or the civil cabinet on prompt reaction, that would be positive. But if that representative is there, to go to the presidency and then set up some type of mafia, because this is common in Cameroon, to push, such an institution, and those who are the helms to get monies in their pocket. We have had this in Cameroon. That's why most of the companies, parastatals, organizations in this country are not functioning, because people who work at the presidency, the prime ministry, when they go down to the field to evaluate and fit hierarchy of the challenges for prompt action, they go and frighten the directors and get monies into their pocket. They collude, and things are not functioning. So we just hope this type of representatives would go to do their job for the benefit of the board. That is important.
Yes, the other representation which is absent, which we also want to cry out, is the representation of parents. Parents are a key stakeholders in education. In any Anglo-saxon system of education, you have the parent and the teachers that make up education. You can't be deciding things about candidates who belong to the parents, and the parents are not represented. Remember, 2 years ago, the board had an attempt to increase the registration fee for GCE because they said the board hadn't enough money to pay teachers' dues as it is now being delayed. But the parents objected that you can't want to solve the problem of finances to pay teachers by adding more load to the parents and their children. And that move was suspended till today. Now that the parents will no longer be represented, who knows? They might impose that levy and nobody will be there to defend.
And Nimpa, the GCE board will just be like any other, parastatal, any other company in Cameroon. There are a lot of companies, parastatals, whereby the government subvention to those companies have not been coming for long. So it would even be too early for people to rejoice that the financial problems of the GCE board is a foregone conclusion, because they can still have a catalog of, unpaid, subventions that will lead even to the quick death of such a structure. So parents, in as much as they are rejoicing, if at all they are, they should keep on the alert that they can still come in to salvage, such a board. It depends on who is appointed director or whatsoever. All of those things need to be checked.
Very important. Nimpa, we will be having new English speaking certificates in the technical domain. The viewers would like to know what this is all about.
Well, yes, I'm very happy with these changes. Like I said from my initial statement here, that as a Cameroon Association of Technical Education Teachers, we are quite happy with these changes. We have been suffering. Technical education students in Anglophone Cameroon have been suffering, and we are glad that this new decree for the GCE board brings these changes. The GCE board will now have 5 examinations to organize.
Okay. Unlike
before, when they used to organize about 11 examinations. You have probatoire, you have CAP, you have baccalaureate, you have brevet de technicien professionnel. All of this, it was at the GCE board, and all carrying French appellations. Now, the new decree, we have 5 examinations at the level of the GCE board, and we have 3 that concern technical education. So that's where we are happy. Technical education had 4 years at the first cycle, and you write the CAP, the CAP. Now with the new decree, the first cycle in technical colleges will step up to 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, which you will write what is called the Intermediate Technical Certificate, ITC.
Okay.
Then you do 2 years in the high school, the second cycle, at the end of which you will earn the Advanced Technical Certificate, ATC.
Okay.
Then there is another certificate that has been introduced, Advanced Professional Certificate.
Okay.
That's the APC. What is this Advanced Professional Certificate?
It's about vocational training.
It's about vocational training. The government understands that sometimes after ordinary level, the candidates with their technical know-how, they might want to go them to the field. You know, we are training technicians.
Sure.
Yes, so they might like to go to the field.
Competence-based approach.
Good. They go in construction industries and all of that. But after some time, the children, even when they are working in the field, they still think that they should come back and have a certificate so they can improve their standing even in the industry, in the company where they work.
Yeah, and Francis,
So if you work in the field for 3 years and aspire again to have another certificate, you will then write the Advanced Professional certificate because you have not attended a formal classroom learning again.
Yeah,
but it's now working on your field experience.
And Francis, I think government, this GCE board should also try to, realize that technology is fading and we are moving into new technology. So the syllabus and the academic program and evaluation should also change to meet the present context because we are really much far back with technology.
It was a pleasure having you, gentlemen, to the studios of WAKA Africa TV. Thank you for coming, Richard.
Well, my gratitude, and I also want to thank the viewers for their patience.
Thank you so very much for making it, Nimpa Francis.
Well, it's a pleasure for me to have been here just to tell my technical education students, candidates, and stakeholders that at least what we've been complaining for a long time, this decree handles that. So we should at least be happy that the CAP, the probatoire, the BAC, the brevet, the technician are no longer part of the Anglophone subsystem of education in terms of technical education. So it will be more oriented, certificate-oriented, professional-oriented. So we expect to see those changes. Maybe like the decree is signed, we'll wait for the implementation so that this can go into effect. Our technical schools are still 4 years in the first cycle, 3 years in the high school, but with this decree, it will now be 2 years, 5 years. So I'm happy about that.
Thank you so very much, televiewers, for making the rendezvous for this edition of the program On the Mind. We brighten our minds, ideas, and we redirect our ideologies to global thoughts. I have been Staffman Ambe, Macmillian Hour, wishing you a good day.